My husband, 29, knocked out my brother, 28, for calling me, 26 female, a floozy, and my parents want me to choose what is the right choice. Sorry for the throwaway account. I have colleagues on my main account, and I want to keep this as private as possible, but also need advice, as my title says, basically. This past weekend, me and my husband were over at my parents' house for a BBQ. The day was going great until my brother, for some reason, started to have a go at me, calling me names and belittling me. My husband pulled my brother aside and had a talk with him, and the insults stopped. An hour or so later, we were standing around talking with some friends and family members, and my brother came up to me and told me I'm a floozy, but the W word. His exact word were, you are a freaking floozy, right? He said it loud enough for almost everyone at the party to hear. All I saw was my husband next to me, look at me. Then I felt a push to the side, my husband stepping in front of me, and the next thing was my brother out cold on the ground with blood on his face. All I heard is my mother yelling and my husband saying, "You don't talk to my wife like that. I warned you already." Before I continue, my husband didn't hurt me. He didn't push me hard or anything like that. Don't know how to describe it, but it was like a push that someone will give you when they are trying to pass. I went like one step back, that is all. I am not mad at my husband. I'm mad at my brother. The whole day he was demeaning me, insulting me, belittling me. I don't know where this came from, as he has never talked to me like that, or to anyone that I know of. The bigger problem is that I have to choose, either my husband or my parents. My parents are pissed and have given me an ultimatum. I either leave my husband and divorce him, or they cut me off completely. My husband doesn't give a crap that they are mad. The only thing he is mad about is that he only got one punch in his words. I love my husband and don't want to lose him, but I also don't want to lose my parents. They have supported me through a lot and have always been there for me. I know they are serious, as this is the first time they have ever issued me with an ultimatum. They also threatened my husband with an assault charge, but he didn't care and welcomed them to do it. I'm stuck between a decision that will change my life forever, and I'm panicking. I have received messages for friends and other family members that have given me support and condemned my husband, but they are leaning more on the support side. Any advice will be appreciated? Edit to clarify, I am choosing my husband. I have never questioned that, but I also don't want to lose my family. I am very family-oriented, and family to me is everything. I want to find a solution where I can keep both. Now for relevant comments. Commenter 1. Info. Why do your parents think it's okay that your brother called you names? What is their excuse? OP replied, they haven't excused his actions, but they are condemning my husband for resorting to violence. Commenter 2. What kind of family does this stuff? It sounds very dysfunctional. What were the circumstances whereby your brother goes off on you like that? Now your parents issue an ultimatum? I appreciate that your husband stuck up for you, but that was a terrible political move. OP replied, one thing about my husband, he is sweet and gentle, but he has never cared what someone else thinks about him other than me and his own mother. OP's thoughts on violence and how her husband had done this to her brother. OP. My husband doesn't resort to violence. I have never seen him really angry, and what I saw in his face was just anger. I don't know how to describe it. This is the first time I have seen him react violently to anything. My husband doesn't care at all. The only peoples whose opinions matter to him is mine and his mother. My brother as well has never talked to me like that at all. This is the first time. OP's husband needs to earn her parents' forgiveness for what he has done to their son, her brother. OP said, my husband honestly doesn't care. When I asked if he would apologize for reacting with violence just to keep the peace, he told me my brother and parents can go freak themselves. My husband has tried to cheer me up, but he hasn't pushed anything on me. He hasn't given me an ultimatum to choose him or anything. He apologized for putting me in the position with my parents, but he isn't sorry for knocking out my brother. In my husband's words, I asked him nicely to stop, and I did tell him he will face the consequences if he continued, and he didn't listen. He doesn't care what people think of him. The only opinions that matter to him are mine and his own mother. OP on if she had dated someone before her husband. Any chances that her brother called her names for another reason like cheating? OP said, "No. My husband was my first, and I have never done anything else with anyone except my husband." Now, for an update on the same day. First, I would like to thank everyone, and I want to apologize as well for the way I worded my post. It's no excuse, but my emotional state isn't the best. My husband is my choice, and I have no intentions of leaving him at all. Never had. I know it's early for an update, but I'm more confused now about what is going on. My parents invited me over to have a talk with them, but they wanted me to come alone as they didn't want my husband at their house. My husband refused to let me go alone and said if he isn't going, then he won't allow me to. He basically said with you alone there, they will just pile on you and that I won't let that happen. So we went together. My parents wasn't happy to see him, and my mother wanted to say something until my husband told her he isn't there for them. But me. And if he is forced to leave, I will leave with him. I agreed with him. Reluctantly, they agreed. My brother was there as well. He has a broken nose and chipped teeth and refused to look at me or my husband. He just kept looking at the ground even while talking. Apparently, what happened with my brother is that he broke up with his girlfriend a month ago. It's more like she broke up with him. Don't know the reason. Don't care. I wasn't aware of this, as we aren't close like that. According to him, the reason he had to go at me this weekend is because my life. According to him, my perfect life with my husband kept popping up on his feeds and he got jealous. Everything on my social media is with my husband. I don't really use it for anything else, but his feed was full of my posts, and that set him off as I had something that he didn't. It got worse when he overheard me and my mother talking when I had a discussion with her over children. Me and my husband is currently trying to have a baby. And that just made everything worse in his head. His life was falling apart and mine was going perfectly and was trying to have what he wanted with his ex. He said he didn't take my husband seriously when he pulled him aside and my husband warned him. I seriously don't know why he went after me, as nothing he said was true in any sense. And I did ask him why he said those things. He refused to answer me. I asked him why the floozy comment because he knows my husband was my first in everything, and it has only been him all these years he refused to answer. I asked him if trying to have a baby with my husband makes me a floozy as it involves sex, and he just left the room. I asked my parents why they didn't step in and tell my brother to leave or stop. My dad said he wanted to, but my mother told him to leave my brother be, as he is not actually hurting anyone. The same with the ultimatum. They wanted to protect my brother. I asked, "What about me?" and they were silent. All my father said was the ultimatum was my mother's idea, and he went along with it. This is basically where we are at the moment. A lot more was said, but I don't think it matters. My husband did apologize to my parents for what happened, but refused to apologize to my brother. When my mother asked him to apologize to my brother, he outright said no. He won't apologize for standing up for me, and my brother got what he deserved. He was warned and didn't listen. My mother said it still doesn't excuse him for hitting my brother. My husband asked my dad what he would do if someone called his wife a floozy. My father said I will have a talk with that person, but will never hit someone. My husband laughed and told my dad he is a weak-willed, spineless man if he allows someone to demean his wife like that. That got my mom red in the face. I could see her get angry. That is when I told my husband it's time to leave. I told my parents that I will be going low contact with them, and the ultimatum they gave me broke the trust I had in them. I understand they wanted to protect my brother, but in doing that they hurt me. This seemed to take all the anger out of my mother. They asked if I will be cutting them out completely, and I told them that is up to them. I don't want anything to do with my brother at the moment, as he can't even apologize for what he said to me. I told them if they can respect my wishes, we will see. When we got up to leave, my husband went over to my parents and actually still greeted them politely, but told my dad it's time to grow a backbone. I don't know what I saw, but I think it was shame in my mother's face because my dad looked at my mother and she looked away from him. This is where we are at the moment. My husband on the way back home apologized for possibly escalating things, but told me it was time someone told my dad the truth. He said whatever punishment comes, he will take and deal with any fallout. I don't need to worry or stress about anything. Edit. My brother's ex cheated on him and apparently he begged her to fix things. But she chose the other guy, and now he is just pissed and angry at every woman and believes we will all do that eventually. Got a message from my cousin. The family had a go at my parents for allowing my brother to talk to me the way he did, and they came clean as to why he did what he did, but couldn't do it when I was over and we talked. They couldn't be honest with me and just refused to answer. Additional information from OP. Honestly, really thinking about it, the only person I have felt genuine, unconditional love and support from is my husband. There are a lot of things I just swept under the rug and thought it was sibling things. But looking back, whenever my brother had a difficult time, it was taken out on me in some way, and my parents have never stuck up for me. My husband has had my back around every corner and had never thrown things in my face like my parent or brother has. OP on her parents' relationship and why they are not hearing her out. OP said, "My father just follows what my mother said. In my 26 years of life, I have never seen my dad go against my mother with anything. Anything she says or wants to do is fine with him no matter the cost. For instance, my dad basically has no friends, as my mother didn't like them. So he gave them up and hasn't made new friends because when he tried, my mother finds something she doesn't like about that person, and he agrees." OP should have gone alone to talk with her parents and brother about her husband's behavior. OP said, "So I should take the way he worded it over the fact that he wanted to be there and make sure I'm not getting gaslit. I took it as he want to ensure I'm safe and what happens doesn't happen again. My wording is bad as my emotional state isn't the best that is on me, and I should have probably double-checked everything before posting. But his emotional state can't be any better than mine. He is dealing with everything, and on top of that, he is trying his best to keep my mood up. I know it sounded bad, but I took what he said with all the other actions he took so far to keep me safe. My husband and I took in my best friend and her 3 young children, and I'm regretting it. My 30 female best friend, 29 female, just recently lost her husband, home, car, and all income. Her husband suddenly passed and was the only one working while she stayed at home with her 1-yo twins and 4-yo. They had nowhere to go, so we took them in until she can save up enough to get an apartment. There was no life insurance. My husband isn't happy that they are here. He has told me that he does not like my friend at all, that she has taken me away from him and has taken his home away. He is paranoid that she is stealing our things when we aren't home and wants to put locks on our bedroom and office doors, as well as put cameras in them. Today, my friend went into our room to smoke a cigarette on our patio to take a second away from her kids when we weren't home. She called me to tell me that she was going onto our patio, and my husband started freaking out. Now, he says he feels like he needs to get an apartment, that he doesn't feel safe. He doesn't have a place in our home that they don't have access to. It breaks my heart that he hates my friend so much when she hasn't done anything. She's just going through one of the toughest times in her life. But I don't know if I am being too trusting of my friend and inconsiderate of his feelings, or if he is being too paranoid. Some relevant comments. Commenter: I think there needs to be discussion of a timeline for when she is leaving. He agreed to take her in the short term. At least that is the impression I got reading this. So he needs to chill a bit about them living in his space. That being said, suddenly having another woman he doesn't like and 3 kids in the house is understandably not awesome. I think the solution is to set a timeline for when she is leaving. Help her find a place as her friend, but stick to the timeline. OP replied, the agreement was a medium-term stay, 8 months to get her kids into daycare, get a job, save up for a car and home. I do think it was a mistake to not have a solid move-out date set for her. Definitely time to set that. She's only been here for a month now. OP answers some questions. Sorry, I agree that she should not have gone into our bedroom while we weren't home, and I need to reestablish these boundaries with her immediately. I have no problem with him putting the cameras and locks up if this makes him feel better, even though I will be talking with her. I don't have the option to be too afraid to talk to her. My husband is my priority over her feelings. Daycare and job. She is waiting to get approved for government daycare assistance, but yes, she is actively looking for work and daycare. She's only been with us for 1 month. The office door is always locked and she has not gone in there at all, and she has not gone into our bedroom besides that one time. I guess that I'm aware of. Commenter. If you are in the United States, the children would be eligible for Social Security benefits. You should encourage your friend to apply for those if she hasn't already. Your friend and her children may also qualify for Medicaid health benefits too. OP replied, "She has been applying for everything possible. I will make sure she also has applied for these." Thank you. Commenter. This OP. How long are they already in your home? Who is paying for food, diapers, and the very important cigarettes? Are you so sure your husband is not right and she is snooping everywhere where she should not snoop? When you live with friends, you get to know them. Why do you not let your husband put up cameras? Are you afraid he is right, and do you not want to stand up against your friend? For your husband? And if your husband is wrong, he will be reassured. Look, it is a lousy situation for your friend to be in, but this is because of choices her husband and she made. She has to get her crap together, ASAP, for her kids' sake. There is leaning on someone and taking advantage of someone. OP said, "She has been here for 1 month now. She is getting government assistance for food and diapers. We have a stash of cigarettes we've been giving her because we don't smoke, and a common gift from my husband's family when they visit from overseas are cigarettes. I have known this woman for 15 years, and I wouldn't for a second think she would steal from us. There is no way for me to know 100% unless we put cameras up, which we will be doing. We already have cameras in the front yard, backyard, and living room. It's not that I'm not letting him, I did think it was just a bit excessive. We can put locks and cameras up. I disagree on this situation being her fault, but I 100% agree she needs to get her life together for her and the kids, but it takes more than 1 month to do that." Commenter. Not to mention that her OP's husband is Chinese, which means other cultures, other ways of dealing with things. They are known to be very reserved compared to Occidental people. And from OP's post history, it seems that their home is a constant shelter for any friend of hers. I'd be freaking out too if I had gotten married and ended up running a shelter for people, not being able to be with my family, and my family only, for some time. And we're not even talking about all the other issues here. Who's paying the bills? Who's buying food for all of them? How even your very own bedroom is all of a sudden occupied by someone else. OP has to make a choice. Does she really want to be married? It seems to be the female version of the "my husband got married but is still behaving like he's single" story. OP replied, "Yes, he is Chinese. Our home has not been a constant shelter, although I do need to be better at saying no to my friends in need. She is the second person to stay with us. The first friend was a disaster, and I won't make that mistake again. He was 100% on board with helping my current friend out. Her situation is heartbreaking, especially for her children. We did not want them to be homeless. There are a lot of details about their story that are just so freaking sad. She has no bills, and she gets government assistance for food and diapers. Our room and the office are off limits, and I will be reestablishing these rules and boundaries today. She cannot and will not be allowed to do what she did again. I disagree that I am acting single. We both agreed to help a family in need. But it's hard, and I am realizing I need to be more firm with her. But I cannot read the mind of someone who tells me there is no problem until 1 month in." Commenter. It's his home too. Was he even part of the decision? She needs to find her own place. She can't stay with you forever. OP said, "We discussed the decision for a few weeks before letting her move in. We were both 100% on the same page at first, until now. It's obvious that she cannot stay forever. She has only been here for 1 month." To another commenter, "He was at first. We were both kind of excited to have the kids here since we have been trying for children for over a year. We discussed her moving in extensively before allowing her to, and he was 100% on board." To a third commenter asking if he had a say, "He did. He's the one that originally brought it up." Commenter, "Why is she not staying with family?" OP replied, "She has no reliable family. Honestly, it breaks my heart that absolutely no one on her side or her husband's family has helped or even reached out on their own. I've known her for 15 years, and it's always been that way. She was staying with her grandparents in another state for a few months, but they are elderly with a lot of health problems, and it became too much for them to handle in a two-bedroom condo. To another commenter, her family is horrible. Her mother was in prison when she graduated high school, and her father kicked her out at 17 for not dropping out of school to care for his new child. It's very sad. His family, they were no contact with his family even before he passed, unfortunately. She's taking advantage of you. She is not taking us for granted at all. She keeps the house clean, cleans up after herself and her children, has assistance for groceries and diapers, waiting to get approved for other assistance. This is the only problem we've had with her in the month she's been here. Her situation is heartbreaking, especially for her 3 children. If it was just her, we would have said no. My husband and I were on the same page with letting her stay. We agreed to 8 months, but I do agree that we need to set a specific move-out date. Commenter, did you agree with your husband for her to stay for 8 months? Why save to get a car? She needs a deposit for house rent, she doesn't have a job. Who will help with childcare? I think you entered this in good faith, but it's such a burden to take on. OP replied, yes, my husband set the 8 months timeline. She will need a car to get herself to and from work, as well as her children to and from daycare. Public transport where we are is non-existent. She's rebuilding from zero. It's gonna be hard. Commenter, 51% of Americans have life insurance, so it's actually more than half. It's very kind of you to help. But again, them not being prepared for life to happen is not your responsibility. You must pick your poison. OP replied, agreed, but my husband and I cannot in good conscience let 3 babies be homeless because of their parents' bad decisions. Editor's note, more than half of the comments OOP responded to were people making things up based on their own experiences or assuming things. If you have a specific question or scenario, OOP probably answered it, but there were too many comments to include them all here. I tried to only include the ones that were asked the most and had the most upvotes. Update, 17 days later. This update is a few weeks overdue, but a lot has happened. It's so hard to fit every single detail of a situation in one post, especially while trying to respect my friend's privacy while going through such a rough time. But I took a lot of y'all's advice. I apologized to my husband and asked him what boundaries he has and what needs to change for him to feel more comfortable. We did have this conversation before they moved in, but things are so different than expected. I realized that I was putting my friend before my husband, and it was a harsh wake-up call. My husband wasn't thinking about leaving me, but he was definitely unhappy. I am glad we had this talk because we have been a lot happier being on the same page. Well, we sat down and talked to my friend, and it went great. She apologized for going into our bedroom when we weren't home and agreed that it was unacceptable and will not happen again. I told her the bedroom and study were off limits, no exceptions. Her children need to keep their toys in the playroom we made for them and not downstairs so they aren't taking over the entire house. She agreed to these things completely. We changed the door locks on the 2 rooms, as well as added cameras and a safe for valuables. Most importantly, we told her she needed to get a job and her children in daycare ASAP, and gave her a hard deadline of April 1st. She took the whole conversation really well and said she needed this to happen so she could get out of her sadness and start building her life for her and her kids. 5 days later, she got a job and found a daycare for her children. It's been a complete switch in the energy in the house. My husband and I are spending more time alone in our home together, and all of our set boundaries have been respected. To everyone that said they'd never take in their friend and 3 kids, that is exactly why she has nowhere else to go. No one said yes. It's been rough on everyone, but my husband and I are confident in our decision to help, even more so now that we both feel listened to. He has also worked on his anger towards said friend and feels more at ease while talking to her and existing in the same space. It also helps that he sees she is taking our rules and deadlines seriously and acting accordingly. Reddit obliterated me, and while I don't agree with kicking her out, I appreciate the brutalness that made me realize I was not backing my husband the way I vowed to. Some of OP's comments. Commenter, children in daycare? You are delusional. She cannot afford that. OP replied, no, she can't. She has assistance and found an in-home daycare that is working with her. She still has to pay some, but it's a lot more manageable. Her smoking. Her smoking isn't my concern. If I put my energy into micromanaging everything she does, I'd go insane. She got her children in a daycare and got a job. I'd say she is getting her crap together. Commenter. Yikes, April? She should be out of there way before then. OP replied, 6 months to start from scratch is almost not enough time. We are happy with the move-out date. Commenter. I don't know if I said it in the other post or not, but keep in mind that if you let someone stay in your home, you will have a hell of a time getting rid of them if your friend suddenly decides she doesn't want to leave. OP replied, I'm not sure how much these will actually help, but we did create a written contract with the rules and move-out date that we all signed. Maybe it won't really hold up in court, but it's something. Commenter. So glad things worked out. Your friend needed some boundaries too. OP replied, yes. I was so stressed about having too many rules, I didn't even think about the fact that it'd be so helpful for her as well. Commenter. That's good y'all had the talk. I definitely couldn't take in someone and their 3 kids. But one thing for sure, and she should have definitely known this, is you never go through the owner's bedroom. That is like a sacred area. My parents never told me that as a kid, but I've always thought that. It's the one area in the house you do not enter without permission. No idea what she was thinking going in there. OP replied, her kids just lost their dad and don't fully understand it. They have meltdowns sometimes, and at the worst, they all have a meltdown at the same time. She was desperate for a safe space for herself, which I can understand, but she can't compromise our safe space in the meantime. Go out back or front and lock the door, lock the bathroom door, etc. Motherhood seems intense. Commenter. You did well considering taking in a single mom with 3 kids. We need more people like you and your husband. People who don't get scared to sacrifice their comfort over someone else's living. I am 100% sure all the good deeds you do to those kids and mom will come back in 100 times more. You never know what life has planned for you. Once my parents took in a woman with 6 kids, 2 own children, and 4 adopted, where husband tragically lost his life. Since then, I have 6 more siblings. I am grateful to Allah for them. OP replied, it was not an easy decision to make, and even more, not easy living in it. But my heart broke as I witnessed them jump from house to house and have no idea what was happening or when they would see their dad again. My husband and I are fighting a fertility battle. So in a way, I took all of my sadness of not being the same to conceive and poured it into the 3 little ones. The experience we've gotten to prepare us for parenthood has been irreplaceable, and the love I have for them is deeper than I could have ever expected. I truly hope that my husband and I made a difference in their lives, giving them a place to be stable and safe. Our discomfort has a checkout date. Theirs doesn't. Thank you for sharing your story with me.